Hey there everyone, welcome to Daniel Talk Tech. Thanks for being here. Today I want to talk about the fact that I managed to pass this certification, the Advanced Networking Specialty. And I'm doing this video because I want to share with you guys details about it, how long it took, what materials I used, what hands-on labs, what practice tests, and so on, to give you a better understanding for you if you're planning to take the certification or any actually pro-level certification or specialty, right? So I'm going to share my tips and tricks on it and what kind of stuff that I used in order to pass, right? Cool. Let's get into it. As you can see here, this is my Credly account. This badge was issued to me on April 2nd, 2023. I would like to say that I think this is the hardest exam out there, the hardest AWS exam. At least lots of cloud industry experts said about that. And I also felt it, right? But for me, I never took the professional ones like the solution architect or the DevOps professional. So I'm not 100% sure. If you're watching this and you have taken both of them, just drop in the comments, what do you think it was the hardest one? Or, even regardless if you passed them or not, just whatever was the hardest for you, that would be great, right? Cool. Let's move forward to how this badge fits within the AWS ecosystem, right? As you can see, we have 4 levels of certifications. We have a foundational, and in that one, it's only the cloud practitioner. Then we have the associate ones. We got the professional and then the specialty, right? Obviously, people start at the foundational one. The cloud practitioner is very good to start with because it does not bombard you with lots of information about AWS, and it just tells you with their services, whatever useful and stuff. So it's an easy exam to break into the cloud, and it's a good certification to start with because by passing that, it will give you a bit of boost of confidence that you know what you're doing and so on, right? The next one's probably, it's very wise to start with a solution architect associate one, and all the associate is good to take because they give you a bit more insight into AWS, and these are like kind of medium level certifications, right? And then we have 2 categories, professional one and specialty ones, right? Obviously, professional ones, they are for those people that they deal with AWS a lot. They use this for day-to-day work. They really want to know a lot more about AWS. The specialty ones, each badge is kind of designated toward the area which you specialize in, like database, security, networking, and so on. But it's still related to AWS, to services, how you use those services, and so on, right? At the moment, I hold the advanced networking one, the specialty, and the database one because I have some background in security. I have some background in networking. I've dealt with databases quite a bit, and I kind of felt fair to go for them because I wanted to know more in depth, right? But if you don't have any background in all these areas, it's a bit more challenging to them, right? Because we're talking about foundational knowledge when it comes to, networking, for example, like subnetting, IP version 4, IP version 6, BGP protocol and so on, right? So it can be a bit hard if you don't have even the foundational networking knowledge, right? So if we move forward to find out more about the certification, we can move to the AWS page, right, where they share information about each certificate. In our case, we're looking at the advanced networking specialty one. So as you can see here, this is a specialty level. We have 170 minutes to complete this exam, which in my opinion is not a lot at all. Questions are very complex and they're very hard, and 170 minutes is not as much, and especially when the difficulty is so high. So time management is very, very important when it comes to this certification. And I think to every specialty one or pro level, time management is super important, right? Then you can see cost $300. If it's your first certification, yes, it costs $300, but many people, what they do, either they pass another certification and then they get 50% discount code, or if this is your first one, AWS sometimes they run some promotions, or some other websites run these promotions on the certification. I know Pearson VUE at the moment runs a promotion where they offer you a free retake if you fail this exam, which is super useful because there are people that fail this exam. I think this exam, because it's one of the hardest one, it has probably the lowest passing rate. I cannot say for sure, but probably it's like somewhere between 15-20% of people that take the certification actual pass, right? In here, you can see more information about what kind of stuff it's involved within the certification, and even AWS recommends that you have AWS security best practice, AWS storage options, advanced networking architectures, interconnectivity, direct connect, VPNs, and BGP and all this kind of stuff, right? So clearly you can read more. You can download the exam guide, which is super helpful because it gives you very deep details about how are the questions structured and so on. We're going to get into it in a minute. And then you also have some sample question if you want to go through them, right? If we download the exam guide, we can go here and we can see there are 14 pages. This is how it looks. It gives you a bit more about the content of the exam. You can see we have multiple choice questions and multiple response. One important fact that I think people don't really know, even if you take an AWS certifications, because I just found out, so I'm assuming other people don't really know, only 50 questions out of the 65 will affect your score, which I didn't know about that. I thought all of them there count, right? But it's not. Only 50 questions will affect your score, and you don't know which one are those, right? So you just have to treat every question that will affect your score, right? As you can see here, it says let me make it higher. It says here, the exam includes 15 unscored questions that do not affect your score, right? I think this is more about the guy who reads the TNCs on this exam, right? Which I suggest you do too, because it's in your best interest and you want to pass this exam. Might as well just get familiar with all the stuff, right? As you can see, the exam are reported a scale score of 100 to 1,000, and the minimum passing score is 750, right? So you can see here that there are a couple of domains from which these questions happen. 30% of the questions will be from network design, 26% from network implementation, network management, and network security, compliance, and governance, right? And then he just breaks down on domains and gives you even more information on this kind of stuff, which as I said, again, I suggest you go read this. Then if we look at the practice question, there are only 20 here. They're sample exam questions, and I think they're super important to read them, to go through them, to try to understand them, try to see similarities between the question, the answer, and so on. There are quite a few answering question techniques. I use one, and I can share with you the one that I use mostly, is that whenever is a question super hard, super long, and it takes too much time, I just mark as a review and I can get back to it towards the end, because I would rather go through the simple questions first and leave the hard ones, the one that are super time consuming, towards the end, right? And this way I get a bit better time management, right, on the exam. So again, I suggest you go through this stuff. Now, if we go into what materials I used Adrian Cantrill course, right? For you people that don't know who Adrian Cantrill is, he's one of the best AWS instructors. He has a lot of courses on all AWS certifications almost. His courses are priced very well, in my opinion. I bought all of them, and I take advantage of that because I deal with AWS every day, and it's only fair to kind of invest into myself, invest into these courses, because it helped me not just passing the certification, but in my day-to-day job too. Sometimes, for example, if I deal with a new service and I check quickly if he made a video on it, it's much quicker and it gives me a better insight on that service than to just go and read AWS documentation, which tends to be a bit dry sometimes, right? So because in his videos, not only he explains very well, he also comes with his beautiful diagrams and so on. So for me, it really helps. If you think it helps for you too, just go for it. If not, there are other resources out there like Tutorial Dojo, A Cloud Guru, and stuff like that. Whatever helps you, right? Once you learn the video lessons, it's very good to put in practice what you studied, right? Adrian has a free GitHub repo in which he shared AWS hands-on projects, which in my opinion, they're very important because you want to put to practice whatever you study, and this way you can see much better how everything fits together than just reading or seeing somebody else doing it, right? Whenever you do it, it's not just, you might have a photographic memory and you might remember what steps you've taken in order to create a VPC or transit gateway, right? And that can be very helpful when it comes to these questions, right? So as you can see here, for example, Adrian has a GitHub repo, which is free. I'm going to share all these links to all this stuff that I presented in the comments for you guys to see. One of the good, which applies for the networking, is this one, for example, implement a dynamic BGP-based, highly available site-to-site VPN. He has one on hybrid DNS using Route 53 inbound and outbound endpoints. He has one on hybrid directory on-premise and AWS. And I kind of feel, as I said, they're very good to put into practice. If we go and look into it, right, as you can see, they offers you is built on stages, and it offers you a diagram and explanation on all this. And I think it's super helpful, at least for me, was to put in practice everything I learned, right? If Adrian Cantrill is not for you, AWS also has one, right? If you go to catalog.workshop.aws, AWS has a lot of these workshops, and one of them will be networking, and it's called Networking Immersion Day. And you can see it has quite a lot of labs based on beginner, intermediate workshops. And then you can see, for example, AWS multi VPC account architecture, network monitoring, and the intermediate workshop has transit gateway and site-to-site VPNs, VPC endpoints, and so on, right? These are super helpful because if you haven't dealt with this technology before and you're taking this specialty exam, it's not super helpful because you want to have touched this kind of stuff practically, not just from studying, right? So in my opinion, I would suggest if you plan to take this exam, go for it. Once you've done and studied the lessons, had the hands-on experience, it's time for putting to test all that effort that you took, right? And I chosen Tutorial Dojo for the practice tests, right, for this exam. I've heard very good things about it. The exam are quite good, good difficulty. I would say it kind of matches the exam questions received from AWS. So in my opinion, is one of the best. I'm not affiliated to this in any way. I'm just presenting what I think it helped me. If it helps you, if not, just go for any other ones, whatever's best for you, right? But I use this. When it comes to this, you have a couple of ways to do this. You have a time mode exam and a review mode exam, right? Which I super like. Time mode exam is where they give you the time, you go through all the 65 questions, and then at the end they tell you how much you score. And then they give you a breakdown of every question, if you marked it right and what was the explanation, if you might mark it wrong, where is the explanation, and so on, right? The review mode is when after every question you can check that, right? In the time mode you can only check at the end, but in the review mode you can check after every question. You read a question, you mark it, and then you can check if it was right or wrong, right? Which I super prefer because this way I can get to see where am I making mistakes, and then I write down the areas or what I have to review in order to go back to the videos and review if I have to review direct connect gateway or something like that, right? So yeah, as you can see, for example, on March 23rd I took my first review set, it was 70%, and then March 27 was 90%, and April 1st at 9:55 p.m. was 78%. On April 2nd, I actually took the exam. I think this is one of the hardest exam, if not the hardest, according to people who have taken this exam and people that have taken also SA Pro or DevOps Pro. It's super hard because I feel like some of the technologies, at least I don't tend to work with them every day. I don't tend to work with BGP, with jumbo frames or all this kind of stuff every day, right? So there are definitely certain things that they are theoretical and you don't get to put it in practice. But I think it's super important because more and more people transit from on-premise to AWS, or they plan to do a hybrid connection between it. And it's important to kind of have a good understanding of how everything connects each other from a networking layer, right? So I've taken this because I plan to take all AWS certifications. I have 7 at the moment out of the 12, I think. I think they're 12. So I've taken quite a few. I have some experience with AWS. I've been working with it for 3 years. Yeah, as I said, for me it was super helpful. I hope for you was super helpful. It took me around 3 months to pass this, which, considering I have some networking background and I have some dealt with AWS a lot before, so it's super important to consider that. Don't take it very light. Don't take it, as this is quite hard, right? So if you want to pass from the first time, just study well, practice, take a practice test and so on, hands-on labs, and I think that will help you a lot to pass the certification. I think that's all I had to share. If there's things that I didn't include in this video, please ask me in the comments. I'm going to do my best to answer them. I'm going to have a look. Also, I would really appreciate if you like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me. It really helps me understand you guys better. What kind of content should I produce to help you better and so on, right? Or if you just, appreciated the effort and appreciate me getting out there telling people about the certification, that will be very, very helpful, right? Until then, all the best. And if you plan to take the certification, best of luck. You definitely need it. Keep all these aspects in mind. And I'm 100% sure that if you put in the time and if you put in the work, you're going to make it. Okay. Best of luck.